Then the synchronization of UI and data is a key part when you write UI applications, and there are design patterns that are used to do this. There's a lot of information available on those things. There's books and whatever, and you have whole books about only these, but you will find them when you are doing UI programming, so it's very important to know about it. And of course there's some bits in the exam about it. So the challenge that is solved is basically, how do you keep UI and data storage state consistent? In particular, if you have data storage changed somewhere else on the network, on a server, on the internet, in the cloud, how do you keep that consistent with your UI? There's basically three approaches that I'm covering. First one is model view controller. This is the slightly older version, where you have a model that represents the business model, business logic and data. There's a view that provides the presentation for that. Then there's user interaction through something called a controller. It can sort of be a little bit embedded into the view, but not a lot. And the controller actually then manipulates the model, which then gets an update, updates the view. The nice part of doing this, by the way, is that you know that the model will always be up to date with your view, or if you make a change and you see it in the view, the model will be up to date. The model is going to be the master data. There's no two copies of the data that you need to make sure you remember to synchronize. If the controller changes it, and if the view changes, shows your changed code, you know that it must have gone through the model and have updated, or not if it was invalid. So your model can put all the policy of the data. It can also display stuff. In a web context, it's often not. In a remote context, not always good, because it might take a while for this whole loop to run through. Then there is the model view presenter thing, and this has also been designed a little bit more from the perspective, how can we do good UI testing? And the idea of this one is that you have state change events, and you still want to kind of handle so updates in a different way, but instead of having this loop, you have a view that actually receives events and then passes them along to a presenter that again registers to receive those and then forwards the events in the right way to the model. So again, the presenter does not do the actual changing, although it could theoretically go ahead and update the view in between until the model is actually updated. But it acts as a glue between the model and a view that each have their events and handle things. And then this is a quite usable and common approach to use in Android. And an interesting aspect of that is if you have your view separated, you can actually have a model and a presenter and test those outside of a UI context without having to test the view. And you can have multiple views for the same data. And the final one is the model view model, which requires something like data binding to make it work. We've looked at data binding in one of the lectures, so if you're interested, look at that again. But model view model uses this automatic binding to basically link a data structure that represents the interesting state in a way that it needs to be presented, to link that with a view. So the view model and the model are still not the same thing. The view model can adapt things a little bit, says, okay, present this with a little bit of more text decorations or something like that. But it is very close to the model, and the view model is then bound to the view that displays it and might update things when and where appropriate. And view model, of course, might make those changes. And again, this is partially for testing purposes.